Welcome once again, guys, to Gunning to Old Trafford with your host Shady and Ibi, and next to us in the hot seat. But for today, this is not a hot seat, this is called the cool seat. We have Uncle Yunus Chamla, none other than Uncle Yunus Chamla. And guys, before we go through the introduction and stuff, I just want to say, Uncle Yunus, it's a total honor for you to be here with us. If you guys don't know, Uncle Yunus, and I speak on behalf of myself and Bryan, Uncle Yunus, a total giant in our community. He has been our inspiration growing up. I mean, and wow, what a great honor. So, Uncle Yunus, Ibrahim, take us in, please. I'm just so excited today.
I mean, Uncle Yunus, he speaks for himself, but, did a lot for Roshni as a community and continues to do so. So, we really appreciate it, Uncle Yunus. Roshni is a small town that we come from. To all of you that are not from South Africa and from Roshni that's consuming our content. A quick one on that before I get into introductions. Our top 3 audiences: United States, Brazil, and South Korea.
Wow, that's amazing.
Uncle Yunus, we've got global, Uncle Yunus.
That's wonderful.
Amazing stuff. So, Uncle Yunus is a teacher by profession. Also did some coaching, football coach while he taught. Massive and avid, lifelong Manchester United fan. I mean, a few groups with Uncle Yunus, Manchester United being one of those groups. And then also a big photographer, and I'm also on one of the groups with Uncle Yunus on a photography front. Uncle Yunus also was part of was a mayor in Vereeniging, the Vaal area. So that was amazing, just to understand this history of who Uncle Yunus is and what he's done over the years. So today we've got Uncle Yunus here to talk through our segment, and today's segment is about Uncle Yunus understanding your relationship with Manchester United, from the 70s, United coming off that high of the 68 first English team to win the Champions League, the Busby Babes, the United Trinity, Sir Matt Busby. But a lot of the decline started happening in the 70s. Yeah. So Uncle Yunus, as a Manchester United fan of the 70s, give us your view on what that was like, and just some of your thoughts on Manchester United during that era.
Well, I mean, it's always interesting how people get to support clubs.
Yes.
And but one of the most common ways that, especially kids between the age of say 7 and 10, whichever team is dominant in that period, you'll find kids following that team. And yes, United were quite dominant in the late 60s, the era of Best, Charlton and Law. But my support for Manchester United really came about because I had an uncle who ended up studying dentistry at the University of Manchester. And so, there were these letters that would come from time to time to keep the family informed of how he's doing. But the part that I always waited for, besides how he's doing in his studies and all of that, was whenever he said something about Manchester United. I went into town and I saw George Best on the other side of the road. That sort of thing. And then, of course, he would write about Manchester United and Old Trafford and going to watch matches. And so as a family, we were really hooked into Manchester United. And this would have been in the early 70s.
Oh, that's amazing.
Of course, you discover the history of the club, backwards as you start reading up and looking at history. But from that period, it was really the period when United were not really doing very well in the league. But they were a great cup team in the 70s. And that was the era when the FA Cup was really, a strong competition. And everybody looked forward to Cup Final Day. It was like a real event. And whoever reached the final that day was just made for them. You'd walk out into the street and you'd see people wearing their scarves and their shirts. There was a real hype about the FA Cup. The FA Cup has lost that prestige.
Yes, it is.
I think because of the money that's involved in the Champions League and stuff, the focus is more on the...
Yeah, and I blame Man United because there was a year when they went on some tournament to Brazil and they pulled out of the FA Cup, which I thought was a really bad decision.
Yeah. No, you don't do that. FA Cup
it was a tough one. I remember that. A lot of backlash against Ferguson and the boys.
And Ibrahim, a lot of you fans, what you guys don't know, those days where social media was non-existent, Uncle Yunus actually used to get the scores of all the Premiership games on a Saturday, Uncle Yunus,
On a Saturday.
and plug it at Lighty's Cafe. And I promise you guys, I somehow remember this. After Maghrib Salah, everybody running to see the scores. And Uncle Yunus already had the scores down. And so Uncle Yunus, it was
It's
amazing.
probably inferred memory because I don't think you were born in the
No,
70s.
no, but it wasn't in the 70s. It was much later.
No, it went right through to the 80s, yeah.
80s, I'm an 80s baby, right? So I was
But-
there
but I
with
mean,
my little
give
Coke.
us that.
with
Yeah,
my,
yeah.
you know the Coke, Uncle
dumpy.
Yunus, the dumpy?
Yes.
And they all love the Russian special.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes, true. So, I mean, because there wasn't the kind of television and social media access that you have. So I, would listen to Saturday afternoons. I would sacrifice everything else and make sure that I was listening to the World Service of the BBC. And there was a chap called Paddy Feeney who hosted a program called Saturday Special. And you would get the first segment, you would just get scores coming in from all the grounds with a quick report from each ground. And then the second half, you would get live commentary. And the commentary would be interrupted with scores as they came in.
Oh, man.
So my ear would be glued to the radio, shortwave, tuned into the World Service of the BBC, and I would prepare in advance the fixtures on a sheet of paper. And as the goals went in, I would make a tick and accumulate the scores. And then at halftime, I would write up the halftime scores, and I put on top halftime. And my young brother was my runner. He would take that.
Oh, amazing.
He would run down to Lighty's Cafe,
Amazing.
stick it onto the window, clearly
yeah.
marked halftime scores. So if anybody wanted the halftime score, you go there, you would check, you get the halftime score, you will get the goal scorers as well.
Yeah.
And then I would keep updating it in the second half. And as soon as the final whistle went and all the scores were in, then we would go and we'd put up the full-time scores. So that was the Saturday routine. But I had another interesting routine for Wednesdays, when usually there would be European games or there would be cup games. I took a chance. I just took a chance and called. I was desperate to find out the team one day, and it was a Wednesday game, and I called Old Trafford, and nobody answers the switchboard when the games are on. But I thought, you know what, let me call the restaurant. And I called the restaurant, and somebody picked up, and I said, look, I'm from South Africa. I don't want to interrupt your work, but I'm desperate to know what's the team.
Yeah.
And they were just thrilled that I called.
What?
We then had a regular arrangement. You can call us at any time. We'll give you scores. We'll give you an update. We can can watch the match. We can tell you what's happening.
Oh, that's absolutely amazing.
So I would call just after kickoff and get the team. I would call when I know it's halftime. I'll get the halftime update. And I'll call just after the final whistle. And sometimes I would call and the final whistle hasn't gone yet. And
you can hear
I can hear it, and they'll say, just hold on, the final whistle's going anytime, this is the score.
That's amazing.
And then South African fans would call me
to find out
at around midnight and get
That
And
is
since we are
amazing.
here, fans, if you guys didn't know, Uncle Yunus actually had links to and was on the Manchester United supporters board in what year was it, Uncle Yunus?
So this would have been in the
and you were the secretary of
no, I was a member of the executive.
That's
Yeah, yeah.
brilliant. And so, Uncle Yunus, maybe you can bring us into some light how the supporters group work and
Yeah.
your official capacity and stuff. And it's so brilliant.
Well, there was at one point there was an informal supporters club that was established by a chap called Mike Bowden, and I really liked what he did because at least he got United fans together, and he would organize dinners and but that was unofficial.
Okay.
But when Gary Bailey had returned to South Africa, he set up the official supporters club, and with some remarkable chaps who were very knowledgeable about football and Manchester United in particular. And then we had the supporters club running with regular meetings in Johannesburg. We had, through Gary Bailey, obviously we had these official links, and we had insights because we're now talking to somebody that played for Manchester United. So it was wonderful. But also, just the people that were on that executive were really, really knowledgeable, and it was a lot of fun.
I followed Dr. Berry on Twitter.
Barry Schweizer.
And sometimes he puts up his practice.
Yes.
And it's like a Manchester United shrine.
It's a museum.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And Dr. Barry Schmeiser was also with us in the official Man United Supporters Club. And he continues to do that work till today. Just an incredible chap and a real wonderful Man United supporter.
I really should see if you could get Doctor to maybe come on to Gunning to Old
Well, we can certainly ask
I mean, we
him.
could go to him.
Oh, yeah,
that would be amazing. Doing
I'd be happy to drop him a message.
Oh, that would be amazing. Aglinus, I'm going to take you back a bit. And before we get there, to all us that are spoiled now with social media, it just showed the commitment that Uncle Yunus had, giving up his weekends and taking a chance. Uncle Yunus, I suppose the call must have been really expensive back in the day to call the UK from South Africa 3 or 4 times. And
I kept it very short.
But just the commitment to Manchester United, and for me, a person who I consider myself a Manchester United fanatic, I love to hear these type of stories. So really amazing. I'm going to take you back to the 70s.
Yeah.
United went through a bit of a tough time in the 70s. Like you said, they weren't a great league team, but they were a good cup team. But there was a season where we went down but came straight back up.
Yeah.
As a youngster watching football at that time, all of your friends probably Liverpool fans, watching their team flying, the great Liverpool team of the 70s and 80s. How did you deal with that and stay strong as a Manchester United fan?
With great difficulty, because I mean, I had this bunch of friends that were predominantly Liverpool supporters, and I mean, they truly had a great team in those days, and we had the occasional cup glory, but their famous saying, every time I tried to contribute to any discussion, they would just say, shh, sit down, stay in your corner, be quiet, go and win the league first. When you win the league, then you can come and talk. And of course, football, has a way of tables turning.
Exactly.
Because then Liverpool had their dry spell when they were not winning the league. And whenever they would see me, as they were walking towards me, I used to say, stay in your corner, go and win the league first.
That's brilliant stuff. Love that. Aglinus, there was also a turning point for me as a not for me as a Manchester United fan, but I think at Manchester United. So Ron Atkinson was obviously the coach before Sir Alex Ferguson. Came from West Bromwich Albion, and he brought 3 players with him when he came across. And he said if he had his way, he would have brought many more players to Manchester United. But one really stood out, Bryan Robson. That midfield dynamo. So 2 questions here. One, how was Ron Atkinson as a coach, and how did he contribute to Manchester United? Because they had some glory under him, not the best, but they had some. And Bryan Robson, what did he bring to Manchester United?
No, I think he contributed a great deal. United, even though they were not doing really well, they had the commercial strength, they had the spending power, they could buy. They broke the British record transfer fee on several occasions, so they could buy in good players. And I think Ron Atkinson was fortunate that he could bring players like Bryan Robson, etc. And of course, when he came from West Brom, bringing Bryan Robson, I think the other was Remy Moses. When he brought Bryan Robson, he brought an exceptionally talented player, a leader, a captain. But I must say that in my view, I don't think Ron Atkinson was tactically brilliant. I think he was good. I think he motivated his players. I think players loved him and played for him, but I also know that in the background there was a certain slackness that was creeping in. A very lax approach, lack of discipline. There was a drinking culture that emerged during that era, which when Alex Ferguson took over, he had to actually deliberately break that culture, and it meant having to get rid of players that were adored at the club. Paul McGrath was one of those players who was a brilliant player. He was shown the door. Norman Whiteside was, really adored by the fans. He was shown the door. Simply to keep Bryan Robson, and that, I think the faith that he showed in Bryan Robson, paid itself off in the...
He was rewarded, right, with brilliant performances by Bryan Robson.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Amazing.
Stuff.
You know, Uncle Yunus and Bryan, and this just shows the larger than life giant character Sir Alex Ferguson is. You know, for you to really make these courageous decisions at the correct time. And we spoke about it earlier on, like for example, the Mikel Arteta and the Aubameyang story. You know, and Ten Hag is giving us this the sense that he's got Manchester United where he wants it, and he's going to manage his players. And if you're not right for the team, and if you're not fit for the team, there's
Get shown the door.
You know, so up and coming, I still feel again we speak about teams going the transition from at the bottom and working on top, and you know the circle of a proper football team. And Ten Hag, I just feel good man for the job. Also big calls like Sir Alex Ferguson.
Yeah.
So in the next 2-3 years, I really feel Manchester United need to give him the time. And I mean, it's just a year, 2 years before you really start seeing what he's trying to bring at United.
Yeah. No, I think Ten Hag now, you know, he's at a point in time where you're going to see fluctuations, you know. The team hasn't settled. It's not quite his team yet. He's brought in some good players. I think he still needs to get rid of a few and bring in a few more. So, you know, you're right. Give him time. You must invest in the manager. Arsenal are now reaping the rewards of backing Arteta. Liverpool reap the rewards of backing Klopp.
Yes,
You know?
correct.
So I think that all the wisdom that is out there is that you need to be patient, you need to back the manager. If you have these knee-jerk reactions and just keep dismissing managers, I don't think that you're going to get success in the long run.
100%. So, Uncle Yunus, you know, Sir Alex Ferguson, obviously we know fond memories of Sir Alex Ferguson, right? Because I was born in 87, Abdul around the same time.
87.
So, you know, by the time we started understanding football, United were already on the up, you know. The first couple of years, you know, Sir Alex coming from Aberdeen, not known in the English game. Obviously, they knew him in Britain. In the greater...
He had a good reputation, having won...
broke the dominance.
Yeah, with Aberdeen,
brought Gordon Strachan with him when he came to Manchester United.
Yeah.
And Strachan, I think, was key for him to have someone in his corner.
Yeah.
But how were the first couple of years, you know, and I suppose, you know, it wasn't amplified because social media wasn't around it then. But was there a sense of uneasiness and, you know, disappointment with this Alex taking over from Atkinson?
No, absolutely. I mean, fans are always impatient. You want immediate success. I mean, that's just every fan. And when Ferguson came in, there was an expectation that there would be instant success. And the first 2 years, I think he really started getting it right in the third year. In those years, you were asking the question, which when you look back, you think, how could you have even thought that? But the questions that was being asked, is he the right man? You know, is he gonna find a way to get Man United back to winning the league? You know, but the club stayed with him. I think his own strong personality meant that he was able to negotiate. Manchester United is a difficult club, complex, and there's always maneuverings in the background. And you know, people think that because Alex Ferguson enjoyed this great success, and you know, he was admired greatly, that he didn't have, you know, he had it easy at Old Trafford. He didn't. There were always things going on in the background that tried to sometimes undermine him. Even his own assistant managers would try and undermine him. You know, I mean, there were stories of assistants going to the board and trying to get players in that Ferguson didn't quite want. I mean, there's a lot of that. You know, Man United have been very. I mean, they were difficult in terms of negotiating his wages, etc. So you know, the perception you have is that it was easy. I mean, and then they just accepted everything that he said. No, he had to fight for his ground, and you know, and I think that just increases the respect that you have.
And he had the personality to do it.
Oh yes.
So in hindsight, the perfect appointment for Manchester United at the time.
Wow, man.
Agreed. Then obviously, so that's the early years. Then obviously Ferguson starts getting into momentum. You know, the class of '92 pop up, and United are winning almost everything, right? Obviously, the Champions League not on early on, but then in 98-99 season, they win the famous treble. How is that now? And I know you mentioned it, where you saw your friends. How is that mind shift or the change as a United fan, growing up with the struggles and now seeing all of the success?
Oh, it was wonderful. I mean, that's life. If you start at a low point and then you enjoy the highs, it's great. It's difficult the other way around. I mean, I feel sorry for the generation that grew up, maybe yourselves, at the, you only knew a Man United winning the league year in and year out, and now you have to sit and look at struggle and fight for fourth place. So it was wonderful. I mean, they played brilliant football, and I think the continuity, the ability to replenish that team was just incredible from Ferguson. I mean, Klopp is now learning, and Liverpool fans are realizing how hard it is to replenish a team and keep winning. You lose one or two key players, and suddenly your performance drops off, and then it takes you a season to recover.
Yes.
But I mean, Ferguson just kept bringing in players that turned it around. And if you really look at, he literally built 3 or 4 great teams.
He did it over a quarter of a century at
Precisely.
Manchester United, which is amazing.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
I mean, even CEOs don't love
No.
that about corporates, they're changing the entire direction. I mean, that's something that really amazes me. I can be honest, and also your journey as a Manchester United fan. You're telling us, listening to it on radio, and then you mentioned off air to us. So 2 things, and I want to capture both because I think we need to do justice on this. You mentioned that tapes used to be sent from England, and you used to walk quite significantly to go watch it. Just give us a little bit about that, and then also your experience. You mentioned 3 particular games that you watched in person. So the journey of listening to it on radio, then phoning into Old Trafford to try and get it, then watching videotapes at the
and then watching them live
Diplomat Hotel.
at the Diplomat Hotel.
Yeah.
Amazing. George Best was there. I could have said that in a different segment. And then traveling to Manchester and outside England to watch them. Just give us that journey.
Yeah, it is a progression, I guess, from the radio. And then we were hungry for videos. We're really hungry for videos because you're sitting there, you're listening to the radio, you're conjuring up this image of these players in your head, but you'd like to be able to see it, And so there were programs that would show in the UK. Match of the Day was a popular one, BBC's Match of the Day. And somebody made an arrangement to have these videos recorded on a VHS tape, and then sent down like almost overnight, through flight couriers, etc. But it would get here, so a weekend match, a Saturday match would get here maybe on a Tuesday. But by Wednesday, they would be shown at a hotel in downtown Johannesburg. It was the Diplomat Hotel at that point. And I was at the Teachers Training College, which was, Fordsburg. So you go to Fordsburg on the one end, and like 4 or 5 kilometers away, you got the Diplomat Hotel. And we used to walk down just for that lunchtime video showing of the match of the day. Wow. And you wouldn't see full games, you'd see highlights and you'd see maybe half an hour, etc. But for the first time, we were able to, on a consistent basis, see the great football teams of this was late 70s. And at that time, Liverpool were the team, and I used to, I'm a Man United fan, but I used to go down and I saw some of the most remarkable Liverpool players on those.
It's amazing.
One particular memory that I have is that we watched a game and Ray Kennedy scored this amazing goal. And I walked the entire 4 kilometers back almost in a daze, only thinking about that great goal.
It just shows the commitment that, football lovers in your generation had to go through to enjoy the game. Yeah. And today we spoiled for choice. We pick up a cell phone and we're able to watch, not just get results, but watch full games.
Bryan, I have a small story for you guys. So last week Sunday I was in Pietermaritzburg. It's a journey. And Ibrahim kept me updated of the score of Arsenal and Chelsea.
Yeah.
But I had my phone, so my brother was watching it, and
Yeah.
I had the commentary on.
Okay.
I totally enjoyed it because you're driving, but you're now picturing
Yes,
what's
that's
happening there. But our mind is it's so beautiful. But when you watch the highlights, the way you picture it is almost the same as it happened. So coming from that transition from the radio and then watching him live must have been amazing.
It was, and the other thing about the BBC is, I mean, the standards were pretty high. Maybe it's tailed off a bit in recent years, but the BBC, the standards of everything, all their programming was of such high quality that when you had commentary, I mean, the commentators were just at another level. The way they could describe a game. When they crossed over for scores or match updates to the different stadiums, a commentator would have 30 seconds to give you a summary of a match. And they would describe it in such beautiful terms, with such amazing language.
Amazing.
That you would be literally there.
It's amazing.
And I enjoyed that from a footballing point of view, but just the way I enjoyed the English language being used well and fluently.
That's amazing. Then, Uncle Yunus, how would that experience then translate to you actually going to Old Trafford and watching it live? You mentioned a game, a European game.
Yes.
And so if you don't just,
Sure.
maybe just take our fans or supporters of going to Old Trafford through that few games that you watched and what you picked out of those games.
Yeah. So, I mean, in 1993, I went down to England and I watched two matches at Old Trafford. The first one was Man United versus Tottenham Hotspur. Terry Sheringham was playing for Spurs at the time. Man United won 2-1. And I think Lee Sharp certainly was one of the goal scorers. The other may have been Bryan Robson. But just watching these players was amazing. But my first impression was quite interesting because we had a seat just literally the second row from the front. So you're very close to the pitch, And then when the game started, I think in the first minute, there was this crunching tackle between Lee Sharp and one of the Spurs players. And it was the first time I realized the physical side of the professional game. I mean, after that tackle, I thought, that's it. That's the end of Lee Sharp's career. 10 seconds later, he was up on his feet and running as if nothing happened. But I just suddenly, for the first time, realized the physical side of it.
Ibrahim, talking of Lee Sharp, I always used to watch the Manchester United fans because Uncle Hassan Raja.
Yeah.
Big up Uncle Hassan Raja, Fawad Raja, Mohammad Raja. And Lee Sharp, this is the kid I think they used to wear. Yeah. And I always just look at it and say, like, Fawad, is it because of Lee Sharp? And he used to like, because I was much younger and that was the Lee Sharp used to wear the Sharp. So I remember Lee Sharp. That was my fond memory of Lee Sharp. But a good player, a sharp player. Very sharp player.
That's amazing. So that was the one.
So that was one. And then in the midweek, I went back to Old Trafford to watch a European game, which was Man United versus Galatasaray, the Turkish team. And I mean, the Turks are brilliant. The atmosphere they create. They come by train and from the station till the stadium they have these huge drums and flags and the Turks really generate wonderful atmosphere.
Amazing.
And Man United were losing with like 8 or 9 minutes to go. They were losing 3-2. Bryan Robson, I think, scored in the 3rd minute. So, like you think to yourself, oh, this is going to be...
running away with it.
Right, and then the game turned.
Yes.
And then it was really... we were staring defeat in the face. I mean, this game was just going. And then suddenly, Eric Cantona comes to life. And you notice it because suddenly he's looking for the ball. His movements now tell you that he's doing something.
So there's a switch that just turns.
He wants to take this game and he wants to do something about it, and he starts finding himself in space. He gets the ball more. He's more on the ball, and then he goes and he scores the equalizing goal. Right, and if there was another 5 minutes, United would have won that game. But just the brilliance of Eric Cantona as a player, I mean, it just struck me. in that
to watch him
particular game
live.
and to watch him live. It was a real privilege.
Must have been amazing.
It was a real privilege. And then I happened to be, I was attending a boating world championship event in Monaco. But it was on the weekend, and in the midweek there was Man United versus Marseille, Olympic Marseille in Marseille. And because it's all close by, I decided to go through Marseille and go and watch the game. I found it very interesting. Not because it was a great game, it was actually a very boring game.
Okay.
It was a 0-0 draw. Both teams had qualified. There was nothing to play for. There was very little opportunity. Berbatov had a bit of a chance here and there. And it was going to be a forgettable game, except that with 20 minutes left, Ferguson brought on Paul Scholes. He was coming back from injury. And here he comes on. And a game like that got nothing memorable about it. And it's like heading, like you're just waiting for the final whistle, so that you can start making your way back home. He comes on and, suddenly there's a game of quality because of one player.
Imagine.
One player.
It's amazing.
I mean, his passing, his movement, it was something to behold.
Football is a team sport.
Yeah.
But you need those dynamos, those eccentric players that bring the snippets of quality. And I think Paul Scholes,
No, he was just
I
brilliant.
mean, he's the one who unseated Pogba at United as well, right? That let him go to Juventus the first time around.
And it also gave me insights into the life of a professional footballer, because when the match finished, the away fans are held behind for quite some time, until the police tell you that it's good for you to leave the stadium. So the home fans all leave. You're in the away section. You're surrounded by police in riot gear. It's freezing cold. You sing, how many songs can you sing? So eventually you taunt the police. You hope you can start a fight. It doesn't happen. The police are resisting all temptations. But out on the field, there's Paul Scholes. Because of his injury situation, he had to do sort of a cool down routine. And for almost an hour, alone.
It's amazing.
He was just doing these sprints and stretches and sprints and stretches.
And Uncle Lunas, like we said off air, and this is for all you fans out there, we're so passionate again about the development of football. And if you guys didn't hear Bryan's beautiful introduction, Uncle Lunas was a football coach. And so is he, Bryan, in his own little way. I'm trying to get him there, and he's going to get there.
Sure.
So once a football coach, also always a football coach. And what Uncle Lunas is actually saying is that the passion and the desire that a young Paul Scholes had already at that time, coming out, having a small injury, still doing the stretches and giving the away supporters something to cheer also about. These up and coming footballers, you guys really need to take it a scrap of the neck and really give it your all.
So the dedication, and let me just say something that might interest you. So in our little village here, we had a player who's your cousin by the name of Ahmed Korai Bryan, who played, at a professional level.
Yep.
And I'm a keen photographer, so I very often used to get up before sunset with my camera to go and look for something to photograph. And one morning I was at the stadium, literally first light, and I see in the darkness there's a figure working out.
Wow.
Right? And it's Ahmed Korai.
Amazing.
Alone, off season,
Amazing.
working out before sunrise.
Amazing.
And you see that's the level that's the dedication that you need.
And that separates.
And that takes you to the next level.
That's it.
100%. So commitment and dedication.
I mean, we see the players for 90 minutes on the field, but we forget how much effort
the
goes
work
into
that happens on, to build up to that point.
Amazing.
Just on Paul Scholes, this week, Rio Ferdinand had an interview with Pep Guardiola. And Rio asked him a really tough question, that a debate for the ages. And we've got Farid off camera. And we had this the other day around Lampard, Gerrard and Scholes. And nothing against Lampard and Gerrard, because I think they were great footballers in their own right, and would walk into any team. I think Sir Alex Ferguson tried to sign Gerrard when he had that, tough time at Liverpool at one point. But he asked Pep Guardiola, who would he choose, or for him, who were the best out of those three? And as a Manchester City coach, it could have been easy for him to appease the City fans and go against Scholes. But he said, no, between the three, not taking away anything from them, that Scholes was that standout player that could walk into any team and just brought a certain quality to any team that he was in. And this is in line with what you're saying in that Marseille game.
Absolutely
Absolutely.
amazing.
Absolutely.
Wow.
So that was just a quick one. And Linus, now that we've gone through the 90s and Ferguson and stuff, right? I'm just going to touch quickly. I mean, I think it would be wrong for us not to talk to you about this. The treble. They're still the only English club to win the treble. And when we talk about the treble, we talk about the real treble. I know Liverpool claim to have the FIFA and all of those kind of things. But we talk about the real treble, which is the Premier League, the Champions League, and the FA Cup.
Correct.
You know, to win those three, you need to have a really strong team.
Yeah.
You need to have luck on your side. But you also need to be able to go all the way through, right? How was it watching that season and at the end, you know, the way we won, the Champions League to sum up the treble? Your thoughts on that?
In those last few seconds. No, it was. I mean, for United fans, it was really the pinnacle of their time as a supporter. I mean, you reach that level when Solskjaer stuck his foot out and put that ball in. It really sent us to the very highest level that you could enjoy as a supporter. You know,
amazing.
And you're right. Along the route, if you analyze that season, you have to have your moments of good fortune as well. You know, sometimes things just run for you, and there were times when it didn't look like it was on, but then, you just had a feeling. Even when United were entering the closing stages against Bayern Munich, somehow there was that feeling that this was written, this was destiny.
Something's going to happen.
And I mean, it was absolutely. I mean, I was so elated that we could have reached that level. And it's not easy to achieve the treble, and I think many teams are beginning to realize that. You have a brilliant team. They look so good on the day that you think this team will win absolutely everything.
Yes.
But it takes a lot.
And Ferguson almost replicated it in the 2007-2008 season. The FA Cup got away from us. Dodgy decision by the ref, but anyways, we leave that for another day.
That's what you need. You see, you need that element of life. You need some of those decisions to go your way as well.
And I mean, in that run-up, and I don't think any United fan forgets it, but Phil Neville gave away a penalty in that FA Cup replay against Arsenal.
Yeah.
Dennis Bergkamp, who would, if you give him that penalty any other day, he would be burying them.
Yeah.
But Schmeichel, I don't know how, but he pulled it out.
Yeah.
And then Giggs, obviously the famous, we saw how much he has on his chest.
But also we talk about the travel and stuff, and I want to just quickly talk about, if you guys don't mind, the Invincibles.
Yeah.
Do you know in this same autobiography he said here, Arsene Wenger is still very upset. He says the game where Manchester United knocked us off our perch, there was a lot of decision that went against us.
Oh, of course.
And he talks about it a lot. I mean, the Wayne Rooney effect. But these guys, Sir Alex Ferguson, Arsene Wenger were in a different level.
Yeah.
Totally different level. Dominated, man.
Yeah.
So brilliant stuff.
No, that's amazing. So we went through the 70s.
But can I just say something about while we're talking European Cup? I mean, my one disappointment is that Ferguson didn't win more European Cups. And I think he was really unfortunate that he came up against Barcelona at their peak.
He would have ended with 4.
But
Barcelona played us off the park in both finals.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think we got an equalizer in the second one.
Rooney.
But I mean, we were never in it.
No.
We were never in it.
And he said the biggest mistake he made was not playing Park to man-mark Messi.
Well, that was certainly a mistake, because in other matches that Park was given the role of man-marking a player out of the game. He would do it so well.
Yeah.
I mean, his instruction was, I don't care even if you don't touch the ball for the entire match.
You
just make sure that person doesn't get it.
Exactly.
And he was brilliant, the best man marker ever.
Yeah.
Park was amazing.
Park.
Yeah.
Very underrated at Manchester.
Very
not by Manchester United fans, but from outside fans and English fans. It's Park was phenomenal for Manchester United. Agrinas, I mean, that was amazing going through that. Obviously, there was the issue, and we touched on it earlier, the horse, I think it was the Rock of Gibraltar it was called, that led to the Glazers coming in. So Alex Ferguson papered over a lot of the cracks, but then him and David Gill left at the same time. and David Moyes came in, and ever since then we've been struggling. We now seem to have a coach in Erik ten Hag who seems to have a good mind about it, a good headspace that he's working in. I'm curious, first of all, what have you made of Ten Hag's, first couple of months at Manchester United? The way he's dealt with the Ronaldo situation. We'll talk about Ronaldo separately, but the way he's dealt with the Ronaldo and Harry Maguire situation, because I think the English media put a lot of pressure on him on that. And where do you see him taking this club? So it's a 4-part question, but we can take it one by one.
One by one. No, I think he's a great appointment. I think he's got a clear idea. He's got the strength. He's not afraid to make tough decisions. I think he sent a message to the hierarchy at United that he's going to do it his way. I don't think he even asked for permission to take some of those decisions. I think he's just probably at the point of his appointment, he made it clear that I will make these decisions, there'll be no interference, and he's made those decisions. So whatever the commercial implications of not playing Ronaldo, etc., I think he simply said that's my decision, and he's taking those decisions. He needs to be backed. He's working in an environment that is not the best, and is not going to be the best unless there's a change of ownership. Because you now have a situation in Premier League football where you have Man City with their resources. I mean, they will at some point replace Pep Guardiola with the best manager that's around, right? They will still bring in the best players because they have the muscle. You have Newcastle that's on the rise. They will have the same level of financial muscle. They will emerge as between City and Newcastle. I think in the next couple of years, they'll lock out the top two. Chelsea, we're still waiting to see how they're going to perform in terms of spending and support. But they could certainly become the third team in terms of strength. And so where does that leave everybody else? Because the answer to the question is where, even with a great manager like Ten Hag, does it mean that that fourth spot, which is the important fourth spot, to be in the upper category? That means that you've got Chelsea, Liverpool, Tottenham, and Man United
all playing for
one spot. And this is the challenge that Ten Hag has. You can have a one-off good season. You can have 2 good seasons, but if you don't have the same level of financial muscle
consistently,
you're not going to be able to, and that same level of support. So my fear is that United have dropped away. They've got a manager now who could get them back, but the environment in which he functions is still not the best environment.
Not conducive for success.
So unless there is a change of ownership that injects money into the club instead of taking money out of the club. Because United, despite all the glamour that we see, has got a stadium that's falling apart, right? Yeah. The youth system is not what it used to be, right?
Training ground is...
We've spent a lot of money, but can we consistently do that? So those are all big questions, So if somebody buys into Man United, it's not just 4 or 5 billion to buy the club. It's another 4 billion that's needed just to fix the club up.
So I think there's a great suggestion. I see FSG has put Liverpool up for sale. I know we spoke about this off camera. But for the Glazers, a perfect business opportunity, Uncle Yunus. They could sell United for around £6 billion. Use that money, buy Liverpool, make a £3 billion profit, and still be in the Premier League.
If
I think everybody gets what they want.
And probably have a more successful club.
Yeah, exactly. And probably, that's amazing. So, Uncle Yunus, your thoughts on, and I'll ask you where you see Ten Hag in the next couple of years. I think we'll close on that. But the Ronaldo situation. I'm hoping that this ends in a really amicable way for all parties involved. Because I think for Ten Hag, it's been a cloud over his management and a tough thing to deal with. For Ronaldo, as a legend of the club, it also hasn't been easy for him, and for the club as well. So how do you see this situation playing itself out? And do you see Ronaldo maintaining his legend status at United Erik ten Hag coming out strongly. I think he handled himself well. And Manchester United playing it off nicely that, they give Ronaldo a nice send-off.
So, I mean, what's happened with Ronaldo now does sort of not tarnish his reputation, but it creates a little bit of a sour taste to what's going on. But I don't think it should detract from the fact that you are talking about one of the greatest players of all time. I mean, for me, if you take the football pyramid, and for me the pinnacle, for me there's only 4 players that live in that very tip of the pinnacle of football, and that's Pelé, Maradona, Messi, and Ronaldo.
Yeah.
I think that you can name lots of other great players, but I think they just fall in the next level. So Ronaldo's place will, his place is at the very top. For me, is unquestioned. What's taken him to that level is a huge mental strength, great professionalism, but a selfishness that great sportsmen need.
Yeah.
Right. And it's that same self-centeredness now that prevents him from accepting that he's reached this point in his career where he's really not able to do what he used to do. So the question as to what would be probably the best outcome for everybody, I'm hoping that it would have been great to have had a farewell for Ronaldo.
Yes.
I don't think he will. It's very unlikely he'll play tomorrow against Fulham. I'll be very surprised if he does play, keeping in mind that he's now also going to go to the World Cup with Portugal. I think that in that time, there may already be a deal that's done to take him to a team that's in the Champions League. And I'd love to see him there. It may be Sporting Lisbon, it may be Atletico Madrid, but he'll be gone. He needs to go with the blessings of all United fans. Never to forget the great contribution that he's made. It then frees Man United up to build onto what Ten Hag wants to build. We would have to bring in a replacement immediately. United are very thin up front,
100%.
right? So there's a huge problem. And if Ronaldo moves on, just the savings on the salaries would mean that we could bring in a centre forward. I don't think that the centre forward that Ten Hag probably wants would be available immediately, but he might have to just settle for a stopgap solution, right? For now.
Hendrik Larsson type of a situation.
Yeah. He might have to find somebody. He might want.
Brilliant. Also, it came to United for small.
Just for a
couple
but
months.
and he did very
Ferguson
well.
brought him as a
He scored
stopgap.
good goals.
He wasn't prolific, but he did a job for us.
He did
I don't know what your views are on this Gakpo.
Gakpo from Holland, very
He
good.
looks
He looks good.
Does
But
he?
I don't think he's going to get him in January. I think that's for the new
No,
season.
you never know. Gakpo and Xavi Simmons, 2 youngsters playing
PSV.
for PSV under Ruud van Nistelrooy.
Oh, yes, that's
Another
another
link
one.
to Manchester United.
I
And
watched-
Ten Hag rates him quite.
I watched him play in one game. I wasn't impressed, but it's not fair to
Yes.
judge
Judge
a
on
player
one
just
game.
for one game.
The numbers he's pulling out, obviously Holland, very different to the English game.
And
And
he's
we've seen
leading-
the struggle
he's
with Van der
leading
Beek coming from Holland
Yes,
into.
also.
But then we've seen Martinez coming from Holland and, bossing it,
Bossing
even though
it, yeah.
a lot of people spoke out against Martinez. So I think it's a player, if Ten Hag likes him, I'm hoping that the board back him to get the player that he wants. Because I think he wanted him in the summer transfer window. But the board said no, because you've got Ronaldo on this heavy wage. You've got Martial coming back. And as much as we want to bring players in, he also has to move players out to make space for them, right? I think that's important.
And Gakpo is actually going to lead the line for Holland. He's
At the World Cup?
Louis van Gaal has got him in line to lead the line for Holland. So
Be
a
interesting
decent
to see.
player. It's going to be good.
Be good to see him at
It's
the
going
World
to be
Cup.
good. It's going to be very good.
I'm curious now to end this segment, and it's been amazing. The history and the moments you brought to us has just been
Absolutely
in awe.
amazing.
And I think it's a difficult question to ask, but because I don't see the Glazers, and I'm hoping they do sell, but I don't see them selling immediately, right? But we also said that Ten Hag is a really firm, and there's some similarities with Ferguson in, that no nonsense. Ferguson let go of many good players, and you said it, in earlier moments. Ten Hag's also been, showed to dig his heels in. If the Glazers stay away and allow him to operate how he needs to, and they do back him in the transfer window in a certain way, How do you see this United project under Ten Hag going over the next 5 years?
If those conditions prevail, I think that they will progress steadily. They'll get closer to Liverpool and Manchester City. The threat of Newcastle, they'll probably have to deal with that as well. But if those conditions prevail, that there is no interference, there's no commercial decisions that override footballing decisions, and if they continue to support him over the next 2 or 3 transfer windows, where he will then really be able to assemble the team that he really wants, I think United could challenge. It's going to be tough because they don't have the same financial muscle as Manchester City and possibly Newcastle in the future. So it will be tough, but it's been done.
Yeah.
It's been done, and I think Liverpool proved that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they were able to compete with Man City despite the difference in financial strength.
Oh, brilliant. Love that.
Oh, yes. Wow,
what a
what an
segment.
afternoon.
But let's not forget
Antunes.
Arsenal, eh?
Yes, let's not forget
I mean, Arsenal are doing...
No, they're doing well. Also,
And they could go into the World Cup break as league leaders if they beat Wolves, which I'm backing them to do.
They should do.
You know, but in a start with the leadership and the ownership from Arsenal with the Stan Kroenke, they really needed to they really change things around. And the pressure from the Arsenal fans was immense this past 2 years until Stan Kroenke left everything. Or gave everything to Josh Kroenke, and Josh Kroenke, Edu, and Mikel Arteta. What a combination!
Good relationship.
I mean, and this is just now amplified their performance, you know.
Yeah.
And Arteta has got the guys he wants in.
Yeah.
Apparently, they're getting in some cash injection for January. He wants to add, so that's a good
You guys
thing.
could be
It-
going
it
head
could
to head
be
with
a
City
good
right to the
thing.
end.
As long as we're not all competing for that one place in the top 4.
But yeah, Ibrahim, what
I
a
think before
session.
we end,
Yeah.
I think it would be wrong of us not to bring this up again. It's the 55th
Yes,
anniversary
yes.
of our small town here in the south of Johannesburg.
Our little village, yeah?
Our little
Village called Roshni, to all you non-South African fans. By the way, we've got a big following out of the States,
Yes. Yes.
Brazil, and
Amazing.
South Korea. Clearance Ganit Old Trafford has gone global.
Amazing.
Agreements is pulling together a coffee table pictorial, pictorial of our town that doesn't date back only 55 years. I think it brings some of the history in. Agreements to give us some insights on the book, a little bit about the launch date and when can we expect to see the book.
Well, the book's almost ready for launch. We're now doing final edits and then it will go for printing. We could possibly do it in December, but we don't want to disrupt the World Cup.
Yes.
And we do, in December, people drift off to their holidays. So the most likely launch would be in January. And, you know, that would be fine. You know, it's an A3 size coffee table book, so it's a large book in 350 pages, so it's going to be quite a book.
Beautiful.
It's got 13 chapters. Sports is the biggest chapter in the book.
Beautiful.
Of course, Vereeniging Olboys take up a bit, but there are some real gems in all of that. For example, I have a Vereeniging football team dating back to 1915.
Oh,
1950.
And I have the name of all the players in the photo.
That's
my God.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's
That
amazing.
is
So
class.
there are those sort of gems in the book.
That is class.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're not going to mention, but there might be a surprise. So look out for it. We're not saying anything. There might be a surprise in that book. But Uncle Yunus, it's been amazing having you here for the segment. You know, when we started Ganit Old Trafford, it was a year in the making, Uncle Yunus, before we actually, got the confidence to do our first video. One of the first few names that popped up as a guest on the show was Uncle Yunus Chanda. So it's been an honor having you here with us, Uncle Yunus. And we always say that once you've come onto the cool seat, in your case, you become family to Ganit Old Trafford. And you've got an open invitation to always join us. We shoot on a Wednesday evening.
Yeah.
So whenever you're free, Uncle Yunus, please pop in and be part of this journey.
Now, thank you so much for having me. I mean, firstly, I'm very proud of the fact that you people have set up this channel, and I'm always thrilled when young people try things and make a success. And so when I first heard about the channel, I was really excited, and I've only heard good things about it. So I hope you go from strength to strength, and
Thank you.
just keep up the good work.
Thank you so much. Abdul, take us out.
Guys, wow, what an afternoon. I'm I'm flabbergasted. I think we're going to have another cup of tea, Uncle Yunus. But yeah, guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification. We are none other with Uncle Yunus Chamna. It has been a total pleasure today. Our inspiration growing up in Uncle Yunus. When we end the segment,
yes,
we do this, and we want you to join us.
Sure.
Right? On 3, we're going to go gunning to Old Trafford. Are you ready?
Yeah.
If you ready?
Farid, you can join us off camera.
Farid, you can join us off camera.
You guys will just hear Farid's voice.
Thank you so much. What an afternoon, guys. And remember, gunning to Old Trafford, by the fans, for the fans. Get in those comments. And if you guys want to join us on the hot seat, you're more than welcome to it anytime.
Oh, and
but
before then,
yes,
Uncle Yunus, please remember to hit in a word with Dr. Berry.
Smile. Oh, sure,
It would be
sure.
good to maybe get you
Sure,
on as well,
absolutely.
yeah?
awesome
So,
stuff.
awesome
And
stuff.
we are in 3, 2, 1. We are
Gunning to
Gunning to
Old
Old
Trafford.
Trafford. Thank you guys. Bye bye.